Kai Trump had always been a fierce competitor, not just because of her family name but because of her relentless passion for golf. She had grown up on lush fairways, learning the sport from her father, Donald Trump Jr., and her grandfather, the sitting president, Donald Trump. By the age of 16, Kai was already making a name for herself in the junior golf circuit, earning respect for her precision, focus, and fearless drives. However, the pressure of being a Trump often cast a long shadow over her achievements. She knew that every stroke, every swing, and every putt was scrutinized, not just for its technicality but also for what it meant for the Trump legacy. But Kai had grown used to it, channeling the spotlight into fuel for her ambitions. It was the day of the National Junior Golf Championship in Pebble Beach, California, one of the most prestigious junior tournaments in the United States. The sun beamed down on the Pacific coastline, casting long shadows over the legendary course where golf history had been made countless times. Kai felt the familiar mix of excitement and nerves bubbling in her chest as she took a deep breath, gripping her favorite driver. The media presence was heavier than usual. Dozens of cameras followed her every move, commentators whispering into microphones about the first grandchild's chances of winning the tournament. But her focus was interrupted by a sharp, mocking voice from the next practice bay. "Hey, Trump. Think you can actually play without your granddaddy's money backing you up?" The voice belonged to Hannah Mackenzie, a top-ranked junior golfer known for her sharp tongue and unfiltered confidence. Hannah was a rising star, known not just for her exceptional skills but also for her unshakable self-assurance, the kind that bordered on arrogance. Kai tightened her grip on her club, her knuckles turning white. She had heard these taunts before, but coming from Hannah, they stung a bit more. Hannah had beaten Kai in a tournament a year ago and had made sure to remind everyone about it at every opportunity. "I'll let my game speak for itself," Kai replied, keeping her voice steady as she lined up for a practice shot. She felt the eyes of the crowd on her, sensing the tension that had suddenly thickened the air around the practice greens. Hannah smirked, flipping her long blonde hair over her shoulder. "Let's see if you can handle the pressure today, princess. Golf is about more than just having a big name." Kai took a deep breath, blocking out the words. She focused on the ball, visualizing the perfect drive down the fairway. She swung, the club slicing through the air with a satisfying whoosh, sending the ball soaring with a beautiful arc down the range. She watched it land nearly 300 yards away, dead center. She straightened, meeting Hannah's icy blue stare. For a moment, Hannah's smirk faltered, but she quickly recovered, turning away as if the shot hadn't impressed her at all. Kai allowed herself a small, confident smile. She knew that the real test was still ahead, 18 holes of grueling competition against the best young golfers in the country. But as she walked toward the first tee, she made a promise to herself. Today, she would let her game do the talking. As Kai Trump stepped onto the first tee, the cool ocean breeze brushed against her face, carrying the salty scent of the Pacific. The spectators lining the course whispered among themselves, their eyes locked on the striking figure of the young Trump. Despite the pressure, Kai felt a familiar calm wash over her. She had been here before, the spotlight, the nerves, the expectations, and she thrived in it. The starter announced her name. "Up next, Kai Trump." The crowd clapped politely, a few flashes from cameras popping as she took her stance. She gave a quick glance down the long, winding fairway, dotted with deep bunkers and thick rough, a classic Pebble Beach challenge. Just as she drew back her driver, she heard Hannah Mackenzie's voice from the edge of the gallery, deliberately loud enough for Kai to hear. "Hope you brought your sand wedge, Trump. You're gonna need it for those bunkers." Kai clenched her jaw but quickly forced herself to relax. She had been coached by some of the best mental game experts in the sport, and they had drilled into her the importance of shutting out distractions. She visualized her shot one last time, took a deep breath, and swung. The crisp crack of the club meeting the ball echoed across the fairway. The ball soared into the bright California sky, cutting through the breeze before landing perfectly in the middle of the fairway, rolling to a halt about 280 yards down. The crowd erupted into a chorus of impressed murmurs. "Nice one, Kai," a voice called from the sidelines, and she recognized it as her younger brother, Donald Trump III, who had come to support her. She shot him a quick smile before stepping back to let Hannah take her shot. Hannah approached the tee with a cocky grin, her ponytail bouncing as she strutted past Kai. She gave a little wave to the crowd before setting her feet and addressing the ball. She swung with a fierce, almost angry energy, and the ball rocketed down the fairway. It bounced once, twice, and came to rest about 15 yards past Kai's. Hannah turned back, locking eyes with Kai and raising an eyebrow as if to say, "Top that." Kai didn't flinch. She knew distance wasn't everything in golf. Accuracy, strategy, and mental toughness mattered just as much. As the round continued, Hannah kept pushing the pace, taking aggressive lines on every hole, playing high-risk shots that had the crowd on the edge of their seats. Kai, however, remained patient, choosing precision over power, opting for smart layups and carefully calculated iron shots that kept her out of trouble. By the time they reached the turn at the 9th hole, the scorecards were tight. Hannah had managed a few birdies with her aggressive play, but she had also racked up a couple of bogeys after misjudging a tricky bunker on the 4th and overshooting the 7th green. Kai, on the other hand, had played a steady, controlled game, keeping herself within striking distance without taking unnecessary risks. But as they approached the 10th hole, Hannah, clearly growing frustrated by Kai's calm consistency, leaned in as they walked together toward the tee box. "You're too cautious, Trump. That's why you'll never win. You play scared, like you're afraid to mess up because of who your grandfather is." Kai paused, her eyes narrowing as she considered Hannah's words. She knew that the coming back 9 would test her in more ways than just the physical. She needed to decide whether she would stick to her steady approach or rise to Hannah's challenge and prove that she could take risks when it mattered most. With a deep breath, she stepped onto the tee box, the Pacific wind ruffling her ponytail as she gripped her club. This was her moment, and she knew she couldn't let it slip away. As Kai Trump teed up on the 10th hole, Hannah's words echoed in her mind. "You play scared." It was a deliberate jab, designed to shake her confidence. But Kai knew better than to let it rattle her. She had faced enough criticism over the years to understand that the loudest voices often came from those trying to cover their own insecurities. The 10th at Pebble Beach was a beast of a par 4, hugging the dramatic cliffs overlooking the ocean. The fairway twisted and turned, with deep bunkers lurking at every bend and a wicked coastal wind ready to catch any misjudged shot. It was a hole that demanded both power and precision, a true test of a golfer's mettle. Kai took a deep breath, blocking out the crowd noise, the camera clicks, and the lingering sting of Hannah's taunt. She visualized her shot, a controlled fade that would ride the wind, land safely on the right side of the fairway, and leave her with a clear approach to the green. With a smooth, confident swing, she launched the ball into the air. It soared high, catching the wind just as she had planned, curving gently to the right before landing softly on the fairway, about 270 yards out. The crowd clapped in approval, and she felt a surge of confidence. Hannah, clearly intent on making a statement, took a more aggressive line. She ripped her drive low and hard, aiming to cut the corner of the dogleg. The ball whistled through the air, skipping over the fairway before skidding to a halt just short of a bunker. It was a bold, risky shot, but it paid off, leaving her only a short iron to the green. As they walked toward their balls, Hannah shot Kai a smug glance. "See? That's how you take control of a hole, Trump." Kai smiled calmly. "We'll see." Approaching her ball, Kai noted the slight slope in the fairway and the way the wind had picked up. She pulled a 7-iron from her bag, calculating the distance to the pin. The green was perched on a cliffside, with the ocean crashing against the rocks below. It was a shot that demanded precision, and she knew she couldn't afford even a slight miss. With a graceful swing, she sent the ball soaring once more. It climbed high, cutting through the stiff wind before dropping onto the green with a soft thud, rolling to within 15 feet of the pin. Hannah, clearly determined to one-up her, chose a wedge for her approach, looking to spin the ball tight to the hole. She swung with fierce intent, and the ball flew toward the green, landing just short before hopping forward, but it kept rolling, skipping past the flag and trickling off the back edge, leaving her with a tricky downhill chip. As they approached the green, Kai sensed a shift in the crowd's energy. The murmurs had taken on a more appreciative tone, and she could feel the support building around her. She had stuck to her strategy, trusted her instincts, and played the smart shot, and it was paying off. Hannah's chip from the back rough came up short, leaving her with a tough 20-foot putt for par. She muttered something under her breath as she lined it up, clearly frustrated by her over-aggressive approach. Kai crouched down, reading the subtle break in her own putt. She could feel her heartbeat steadying, her focus sharpening as she settled over the ball. With a firm, confident stroke, she sent the ball rolling toward the hole. It tracked perfectly, dropping into the cup with a satisfying clink. The gallery erupted into applause, and Kai allowed herself a small fist pump. She had birdied the toughest hole on the back 9, pulling even with Hannah on the leaderboard. Hannah's par putt lipped out, forcing her to settle for a bogey. As she retrieved her ball, her face tightened, the frustration clearly building. Kai could almost feel the heat of her rival's glare as they moved to the 11th tee. Kai whispered to herself as she placed her driver back in the bag, "Let's keep this momentum." She knew the battle had only just begun, but for the first time that day, she felt the shift in her favor. As they reached the 11th hole, the intensity of the competition reached a new peak. The 11th at Pebble Beach, a challenging par 4 with a tight fairway and strategically placed bunkers, was the kind of hole that separated the contenders from the pretenders. Kai Trump knew that if she wanted to shake off Hannah's constant taunting and pull ahead, this was her chance. Hannah's mood had visibly darkened after her bogey on the 10th. Her confident strut had given way to a tense, rigid walk, her eyes fixed on the horizon as if trying to block out the crowd. Kai recognized the signs, she had seen it in dozens of competitors before. Hannah was losing control of her mental game, and in golf, that often spelled disaster. Kai took a deep breath as she approached the tee box. She remembered the advice her grandfather, the president, had given her before the tournament. Golf is a game of patience, Kai. Let others make the mistakes, you just stay steady. She selected her 3-wood, opting for precision over power, knowing that an errant drive could easily find the rough or worse, the deep bunker guarding the right side. She addressed the ball, took a smooth backswing, and unleashed a crisp, controlled shot down the left side of the fairway. It landed with a satisfying bounce, rolling into perfect position for her approach to the green. The crowd erupted into applause, and Kai felt a surge of confidence. She had stuck to her plan, refusing to be baited into risky shots. Hannah, still fuming, grabbed her driver, clearly looking to make a statement. She took a few aggressive practice swings, the club slicing through the air with a sharp whistle. She stepped up, narrowed her eyes, and swung hard. The ball exploded off the face of her driver, a low, piercing bullet that cut through the wind, but it started to drift right, heading directly toward the bunker Kai had carefully avoided. The crowd gasped as the ball struck the lip of the bunker and tumbled into the deep sand, kicking up a small cloud of dust as it disappeared into the trap. Hannah slammed her club into the ground in frustration, muttering under her breath. Kai watched silently, feeling a mix of relief and empathy. She knew the sinking feeling of a wayward drive, the panic that followed as you marched toward a buried lie. But she also knew this was her moment to press her advantage. As they reached their balls, Hannah's frustration boiled over. She took a wild swipe at the sand with her wedge, sending a spray of grains into the air before settling over her shot. She blasted the ball out with a powerful, desperate swing, but it came out too hot, skidding across the green and trickling into the rough on the opposite side. Kai, meanwhile, approached her second shot with calm focus. She chose a 9-iron, calculating the distance to the pin and the gentle slope of the green. She took a deep breath, swung with a fluid motion, and watched as the ball soared high, landed softly, and rolled to within 10 feet of the cup. The crowd erupted once again, and Kai felt the adrenaline surge through her veins. This was the kind of golf she had trained for, steady, unshakable, relentless. Hannah, still fuming, flubbed her chip from the rough, leaving herself a long, nerve-wracking putt for bogey. She missed, settling for a double bogey that all but shattered her confidence. Kai, on the other hand, calmly drained her 10-footer for birdie, earning another roar of approval from the gallery. She had gone 2 strokes up on Hannah, taking control of the match as they headed into the final stretch. As they walked to the 12th tee, Kai felt a wave of clarity wash over her. She had overcome the mind games, the taunts, and the pressure of the Trump name. Now it was time to finish what she had started. As Kai Trump approached the 12th tee, the crowd's energy was palpable. She had seized control of the match, and the momentum was clearly in her favor. But she knew that the final stretch of Pebble Beach's back 9 would test every aspect of her game: focus, patience, and resilience. Hannah Mackenzie, now visibly rattled, had fallen 2 strokes behind after her disastrous double bogey on the 11th. Her once sharp, taunting demeanor had faded into a silent, steely focus, but Kai could sense the desperation in her eyes. She had seen it before, the flicker of self-doubt, the tightening grip on the club, the subtle sag in the shoulders. The 12th hole, a 200-yard par 3 with a green perched precariously on the edge of the cliffs, demanded precision and nerve. The Pacific Ocean roared below, ready to swallow any errant shot that drifted left. Kai selected a 5-iron, calculating the crosswind and the slight downhill slope. She took a steadying breath, visualized the shot, and swung. The ball launched into the air, riding the wind perfectly, landing softly on the center of the green before trickling to within 15 feet of the pin. The gallery erupted in applause, the roar echoing off the cliffs. Kai felt a surge of adrenaline but quickly calmed herself. The job wasn't done yet. Hannah, determined to claw her way back into contention, chose a 4-iron, looking to power the ball through the wind. She took a deep breath, her face set with grim determination, and swung hard. The ball shot off her club like a missile, but it started to drift left, caught by a sudden gust. The crowd gasped as the ball arced over the cliff edge, disappearing into the crashing waves below. Hannah's face drained of color. She dropped her club in disbelief, her eyes fixed on the spot where her ball had vanished. The crowd murmured in shock, a few whispers of sympathy floating through the crisp coastal air. Kai felt a pang of empathy. She knew how devastating a mistake like that could be, especially in a high-stakes match. But she also knew she couldn't afford to lose focus now. Hannah, forced to take a penalty and drop a new ball, managed to land her second shot safely on the green, but still faced a long, uphill putt for double bogey. Kai, meanwhile, took her time lining up her birdie putt, reading the gentle break in the green. She took a slow, steady stroke, and the ball rolled true, tracking toward the hole before dropping in with a satisfying rattle. The crowd erupted once more, the cheers echoing down the coastline. Kai felt a rush of pride. She had pulled 3 strokes ahead, with only 6 holes to go. As they moved to the 13th, Hannah's shoulders slumped, her confident strut replaced by a weary shuffle. Kai, on the other hand, felt lighter with every step, her confidence building as she sensed the finish line approaching. Over the next few holes, Kai continued to play smart, steady golf, refusing to let the mounting pressure disrupt her rhythm. She took safe lines off the tees, trusted her short game, and avoided the costly mistakes that had derailed Hannah's round. By the time they reached the 18th green, the outcome was all but certain. Kai had built an insurmountable lead, her name already etched into the leaderboard as the likely champion. As she sank her final putt, a crisp, clean stroke that rolled into the center of the cup, the crowd rose to their feet, clapping and cheering for the young golfer who had overcome the pressure, the taunts, and the relentless spotlight to emerge victorious. Hannah approached her, forcing a tight, strained smile as she extended her hand. "Nice game, Trump. Guess you're tougher than I thought." Kai smiled, her heart still racing with the thrill of victory. "Thanks, Hannah. You pushed me to play my best. I'll see you at the next one." As she stepped off the green, surrounded by a sea of flashing cameras and cheering fans, Kai felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She had proven, not just to the world but to herself, that she was more than just a name, she was a champion in her own right. And as she looked out over the windswept cliffs of Pebble Beach, she knew this was only the beginning of her journey.